Hello and welcome to SMGH's Top 5 Best Board Games, Analog Board Games, and we have the caveat that we've all discussed beforehand that we're not including RPGs or full-on miniature games or small party games.
So say analog board games, so does that exclude electronic board games?
Does that exclude anything with an app?
No.
So can we just say board games?
We're trying to be trendy.
Right, okay.
Let's introduce ourselves first of all. So I'm John,
Adam,
Steve,
and Stefan.
So we'll set off then with number 5. Well, would you like to join me in the deep, deep dark of my number 5, where people will be murdered and killed and battles fought all for territory
I'm going to be honest.
amongst the tyrants of the Underdark?
Interesting.
So I'll just
Tyrants of the Underdark. So
take that one off there.
what? Tell us, what is Tyrants of the Underdark?
Well, it is. Which of the Dark Elf houses will control the Underdark and become a tyrant? Well, it's a Dungeons and Dragons themed deck building and area control game. Don't look at the rest.
Right, so you've done there, you've lost me, as you said, area control.
So build up your cards.
It's actually alright.
You build up your cards, your deck, and then you use what you've built to deploy troops to different areas of the board, to kill your enemy's troops, to put spies out, to spy on particular areas so that they can't have total control over those areas. There's lots of replayability because the deck that you use in the game is made up of half decks, which are 40 cards each. There's 4 half decks in the base set, and you can combine them whichever way you want. They all have different sort of abilities, like one might be more to do with drawing cards, another one might rely on keywords of other cards, that kind of thing. Fantastic artwork on the cards themselves. The actual board is functional. It's not amazing. It just has a lot of sort of white circles and little symbols and things on the board.
It's very functional. It's a very exciting board.
You don't look at the board and think, wow.
But at the same time, that makes the gameplay easy because you look at it and you go, okay, that's clearly that area, that's clearly that area. Sometimes you've got really good artwork on a board and you're like, oh.
Yeah, because we've had that issue, I think, with Kanban. We noticed that when we played Kanban that it was a bit overwhelming, the stuff that's on the board.
Yeah, sometimes you're just overfaced by what's on the board.
Yeah.
Very monochrome.
In terms
of very monochrome.
Other sort of downsides, the card stock is really flimsy on it.
Yeah.
And with a deck builder, even sort of the best quality deck builder, because of the amount of manipulation of the cards, the shuffling, etc., you're gonna need to sleeve them, really.
That's true of all. To be fair, that's true of all.
They've got black borders, which doesn't help.
Yeah.
So as soon as you basically pick the cards up and you've played your first card, you've probably got a little bit of a mark on the cards. So I think it is essential for sleeving.
Do you not think it's a bit swingy? Like you'll work hard to get someone out of your particular area, and then they just do one card or whatever, and they go straight back in there. And for me,
it can be swingy.
It was a bit frustrating.
It can be, yeah.
I'm not a deck builder kind of player, and I'm not an area control kind of player, but I actually quite enjoy it. But I think possibly the theme,
the combination of the two, coupled with the theme, I think elevates it above either the majority of deck builders and the majority of area control games for me. Okay,
Should we move on?
Yeah.
Right, my one is long as John's because I'm good at talking. And I've not got a script. My number 5, actually, I've only just decided right now what's going to be number 5. Because there was two that was, and I couldn't decide which one I wanted to put in and the reasons behind it. But in the end, my number 5, I've gone for Legends of Andor. Okay, which might be a bit controversial in terms of what you might
guess that.
And this has just edged out Cosmic Encounter for me. Which is
wow.
If you know me, that it's like one of my. I do enjoy Cosmic Encounter, but for this, it's just edged it out for the reason that I kind of wanted to put a co-op in there.
Yeah,
and this is my co-op, and I think it works really well. It's got a great theme.
Yeah.
There is a story there with the base game. You've got the campaign where it's got a bit of story, but you don't need to do that. You can just play it as a one-off.
Yeah,
it's got a nice puzzly element to it where you're working together to figure out how to crack that code.
Which code was that?
The code of the game. There's no code in it. There's no code in the game at all. Okay. But I mean, like, how to solve that puzzle, that particular puzzle.
How best to defeat that scenario?
There's no actual codes in the game at all.
Sometimes he wears the Vinci Code while playing it.
The only downside I would say, first of all, good things about it, it's really easy to learn. The tutorial for that game, it kind of, there's a teaching game beforehand where you don't actually read the rules. It kind of teaches you as you play the tutorial, which is fantastic.
That's clever.
And then you're in. Yeah. It's one of the best, but easiest games to learn.
Is it fantasy?
I think there's been a few versions of it. Fantasy may have been.
Has it passed around?
Cosmos. Something like
that.
I think it's been passed around. I think there's been 2-3 versions of it.
The only bad thing I would say about that game is possible replayability, because, like I said, there's a bit of a campaign type element to it, and then it's done. But if you like the base game, there's an expansion called the Star Shield, which you mix and match different modules to create a new game every time. Okay. So I would say go for Legends of Andor base game, and then if you like it, for the replayability, Star Shield is
I would say it was okay, but it was just a bit dull. I don't know, just a bit generic fantasy. There's nothing that sort of grabbed me and made me think, I'll play this again.
I'd play it if somebody else was playing it, but it's not something I'd rush out to buy. I have a lot of fantasy. I play a lot of fantasy. That's the other thing. I have a lot of fantasy themed games, and I play a lot of fantasy themed games, and I think it sounds really like shallow and trivial, but when you've got standees instead of minis, that does kind of take something away from it.
Yeah.
For me, it's a miniatures painter.
They're not fantastic. I mean, there are some great quality standees, like the Dead of Winter. The ones in Dead of Winter, the artwork is brilliant on those.
Even
for standees, but I feel that the sort of a combination of the fact that standees and the artwork is just a bit generic.
It is a little bit generic.
But as a game in itself, though,
the mechanic is quite
cool. And what I like about co-ops is that you always feel like you're going to lose, and so
On a good co-op, I would say, not necessarily all co-ops, because good co-op will make you want to keep playing.
Yes. Yeah, it needs to be like sort of 5 to midnight type deal.
Yeah. To be honest, the thing I would say about it is that I don't really remember that much about it. I remember having to reveal things as you went around areas,
gems and stuff.
or something might be hidden in those areas.
That's the scenario. The scenario, everything's different. So you might play one particular type of thing, and maybe you didn't tickle your something else.
Sea monster coming up the river that destroys the castle, for example. That's horrific. We lost that one, right?
Possibly. That's from the Star Shield expansion.
I think it was one of the first ones that I played. I think.
But the Star Shield one, it's very clever because it's basically the legend is being told, but it's been passed from person to person. So the theme behind it is it slowly distorts. So that's why it's quite a nice replayability. Because
I see. So then that means when things don't quite match up because of the randomness of the way the scenario plays out, it makes sense within the story.
No. So say Stefan said he saw a sea monster. There's a chance if we played the Star Shield, you wouldn't see the sea monster, you'd see something else.
Yeah.
Because you've heard it from somebody else's point.
It just means you're not playing through the same scenario.
It's quite clever.
It sounds like it's definitely worth another play then.
The mechanics are good.
Okay, so
5 Tribes, which I think is a remarkable game. Obviously, story sadly lacking in 5 Tribes. What you do is you take lots of coloured different meeples and use them for lots of different things to get victory points, and we all love victory points.
How many does it play though?
Sure, you're all.
It plays 4.
This is my problem with 5 Tribes. Let's play 5 Tribes. Oh, how many does it play? 4. Why?
They actually added an expansion to give the 5th tribe.
But you shouldn't have to buy an expansion for a game that's called 5 Tribes. It should play 5 people.
Strangely, the expansion lets you play 5, but gives you 6 tribes. So
somebody get on the phone to these guys. Say that there's an issue.
Definitely a trick.
It is a 5.5 tribe.
It's a days of wonder, isn't it?
But it's just one of those where Okay, sometimes it's a little bit prone to AP because when everybody's your turn, it's going to change by the time you get round, so there's not a lot of point looking. So
for those of you who don't are unaware of that term, that's analysis paralysis.
Which means you're thinking, oh my god, what should I do? Which is
essentially you've got so many options that you're not sure, and then you start.
It's 5 times the where you move the people around and drop them off to get something. All right, no, it's
called
a good game. It's a very good game.
There's an old game called Mancala where you drop.
Pick and drop.
You pick and drop them in each space around it.
And essentially, you do have a story. The game is pick up the red man and move him. And that's the story. That's the story. And get Veeps.
But there's some fantastical genies in there as well.
There are some genies. They're called gins. I do enjoy gin.
What, with tonic? With tonic
maple?
So, but yeah, basically, I think out of, because I'm a bit of a Euro geek, really, to be honest.
Just a bit.
You wouldn't think it about it.
No.
I am. It's when people liking stories, you want stories. About mechanics. Hang on, you are like.
How about games with both?
Yeah.
No. Let's just have mechanics.
It is a good game. I can't argue, it's a good game.
And 5 different coloured people, you can't argue with that.
Again, it's another one that needs to play.
Yeah.
In fact, this was a grower for you, wasn't it? Because you actually sold it when you originally had it.
I did, yeah. I had it, and I thought, well, it's not going to get much play, and it's like whatever. But then, about a year later, I played it again, somebody else's copy, because I don't want to buy my own copy, that'd be ridiculous. And then I thought, hang on, it's actually quite good. And then they sold their copy. So I thought, well, I haven't actually got access to this game anymore, so I need to buy it back. So I did buy it for £1 less than I sold it for. So
100 pence profit.
100 whole pence.
100 whole UK pence profit.
Fantastic. Okay. Right, Stefan, your number 5.
My number 5 is surprisingly the only Games Workshop game in my list, which you'll be surprised to know.
Really?
Yes. And it just edged out a couple of other Games Workshop candidates that were all vying for 5th place. But my number 5 is Space Hulk, which is a 1v1 sort of space setting. Essentially, it's a dungeon crawler, but it kind of is and it kind of isn't. I was toying between that and Space Crusade and Hero Quest, incredibly, or the old ones. Yeah. The downsides to it is it's 1v1, whereas Space Crusade Hero Quest they play up to 5 players. And the campaign mechanic is essentially there's 10 scenarios that you play through, but there's no follow-on, so that's another downside. Whereas in some of the other Games Workshop games, when you play the campaign mechanic, obviously you can upgrade your character and so forth. As you play each game, you get slowly better. The scenarios get slightly harder, but you get slightly better. In Space Hulk, the scenarios start off really difficult, and then they become impossible, and there's no way of you getting better, except you as a player. But it's one of those games that if you play, so essentially it's a bunch of guys playing as Space Marines in Terminator armour. If you're aware of the Warhammer 40,000 lore, you'll know what that means, but it's essentially a bunch of humans in really big, bulky armour with some guns, going up against a bunch of gene stealers, which are horrible aliens that are not at all related to the alien in the Aliens film. Not at all.
Not
from that.
They look like them, don't they?
They do look, quite.
I'm surprised Guy didn't sue.
I think they were around roughly the same time. I think they got away with it like that. And it's really quite a punishing game. So it's also real time, which is one of my favourite mechanics. So if you're the human player, you're playing against an egg timer. If you don't finish your turn before the egg timer runs out, tough, you don't finish your turn. It's action point based, so you've got a number of action points to spend on each miniature. You get more or fewer miniatures in your kind of team, depending on the scenario, so you've got more or less to do. And it is one of those games where you will lose more often than not if you're the human player. You'll probably lose 9 times out of 10. But you'll very quickly spot why you've lost.
Yeah.
It's one of those that will punish every single mistake, and you need to play a virtually flawless game in every scenario to win.
Right.
But that's what makes you come back to say, oh my god, I lost again. But I was super close. And if I hadn't done this one thing, I would have won. So next time I'm going to go back and not do that one thing.
That is one that, because I had Space Crusade and Hero Quest as a kid, and it is one that I never quite graduated from Space Crusade onto. I always looked at it in the stores and
it's much more punishing. Space Crusade, because obviously that's all V1, isn't it? It's much more of a 3 players playing with a group of Space Marines against various different aliens. I think that's much more you'll win the first few scenarios without any real problem. But
that's interesting that there's that timer on the human player. I didn't know that.
No,
But it's definitely one that I want to play, I think.
There's no timer on the alien player.
No, the alien player gets as much time as
I suppose the pressure is on the humans, isn't it? Because it's there in what.
They're in a hostile environment.
The space has been infested by.
Yeah, they're in a hostile environment. They need to get in and get out. It's the aliens basically it's their ship, so they're not in a picture.
How many characters is the human?
Depends between the scenarios. So it could be anything between 5 miniatures and 12.
All right, okay. I was just thinking, would it be? I know you said it's 1v1.
Yeah, I have played it 2v1. If you play the bigger scenarios where you've got maybe 10 space marines, so long as both players have played it before, because that's going to waste your time. But if both players have played it before, some of the later scenarios when you've got most of the human miniatures out could easily be split between 2, possibly even 3 players. And I'd say that would make it better as well, because it takes the pressure off each player to move all the minis. It also makes it a bit more of a social thing. The major downside for me is that it's set up as a scenario with set up as a campaign with 10 scenarios, and there's no upgrade. There's no real reward or consequences for each scenario. For me, a campaign mechanic has to have that. Otherwise, it's not really a campaign.
It had a recent edition, fairly recent.
Yeah, it still doesn't have that. It still doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Which is the major downside.
That's unusual, especially from GW.
Yeah, exactly.
They would build that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's number 5.
My number 4, so you can guess it. It's got pirates in it, and you've got to try and get a loot.
Yes, I love it. I thought it was going to be in there.
It's certainly not put
Libertalia, isn't it?
It is Libertalia.
I'm not surprised by that.
I don't play it as much as I probably should. But no, I think Libertalia is such a good game.
It is a very good game.
Steve's brought it tonight.
It's in the cup right now.
Maybe we need to play it.
It's a sealed copy though, isn't it, Steve?
It is.
He'll probably sell it.
I will.
But yeah, no. The great thing about it is you all start with the same hand of cards. They're all numbered and they've all got asymmetrical powers on. The lower numbers, I think it's the lower numbers. The lower numbers activate first in terms of their powers, but the higher numbers get first dibs on the loot. So you put them down. You put them down so that no one else can see them. You reveal them together. Put them in the right order and then go down the line, activating them first by powers, and then you come back the other way and you get loot. So obviously at first you're all at the same hand, but depending on what cards you use, so I might use 3 cards in the first game that Steve doesn't use, for instance.
Different ones.
We get the same cards again for the next round, but the ones I've kept from the first round might be different to Steve's. So my cards slowly will change. Whereas
we'll all see the same cards, but we won't have all the same cards at the same time.
The same pool of cards. Things like what's the one where you go to Mars when you get the rocket ships to Mars?
Oh yes,
Mission Red Planet.
Mission Red Planet.
Exactly. Similar kind of thing.
It just needs everything's really.
So it's just a better game.
It is. It's a miles better game. Mechanics are there. The replayability is just.
Some of the powers, which is quite.
Some of the powers, it's about trying to work out the right time to play yours and outthinking your opponents. I would say the only bad thing about that game is because there are so many cards. Understanding what each of them kind of do and how they might interact with others, that might come after a couple of players.
You have to play it a couple of times.
I think you have to have a good teacher, because the first experience I had with this game was on Board Game Arena, the online platform thing where you can play a lot of. And I played it on there. I could not understand it at all.
It's
easy. Well, it is.
As Adam says, you need to know what the cards are.
When you've just got it on a screen and it doesn't necessarily show all the actions, what stuff's automated and that.
That underlines the fatal flaw in Board Game Arena when you should be going to your local gaming club and playing.
Exactly, which is what we prefer.
Well, Libertalia is a fantastic game.
The artwork, I would say, is pretty good as well.
Solid.
So I think it's above average. I would say. I don't think it's not amazing, but it's
solid.
Definitely above average.
Well, the components wise, there's not much to the game. It's all about the cards and how they interact.
Does it have a board?
It has a board of the ship where you put them down and you flip them and reveal, and that's where the loot is, and it shows the daytime and the nighttime phase. But and you have your own little area where you have your dead people go. Because that sometimes interacts with certain cards as well. there's not much to the game other than the cards, but it is amazing, I think.
Yeah,
Very good. Steve, number 4.
Okay, yeah, my number 4 is a worker placement game. That's what surprised me.
Oh, what a shock!
Can't believe it.
It also features
God.
area control
Fisticuffs.
and a little bit of fisticuffs. Yeah, you will be surprised to find.
Placement.
So it's Age of Empires 3. Age of
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shot this
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
It's a really very nice.
So the video game, obviously.
Yeah, it's very not based on the video game. It would be nice if it was. It sort of is because you basically go around and you will kill and maim and otherwise just take over the world.
Is that a specific action, maiming?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's one of them. One of them where you can literally shoot your opponents to try and get area control. Yeah. So it's about basically colonising the Americas. So you start off sort of in Europe and you place your workers in Europe to be able to send them across to conquer areas of the Americas. And then you hold those places. Obviously, the more people you have in there, you have the area control, so you hold that and then you get victory points for that. Mm. And there's lots of other areas basically where you can go hunting. Not hunting, what's the
This set collection in there.
Exploring.
It's sort of like that. You basically but there's different types of workers that you send over. I mean, the bad thing I would say about it is that the components are pretty good, but the point is that it's sometimes very difficult to tell the difference between the types of workers.
It's like priests and...
There's a little priesty fellow in there.
So the priests allow you to take 2 colonists over rather than 1.
Yeah. Right.
So, and the soldiers allow you
coming back to me now.
To shoot the other players to try and get area control.
And you work down the actions and
it's just a very nice little game, very interactive, and it has to be a little bit different for me to enjoy area control because it's not really my favourite.
No, exactly.
But it's
well, the fact is worker placements and different workers offer different powers. That's an interesting concept.
That's you all over as well.
It's interesting that a few of the games are sort of hybrid rather than just sort of one mechanism, or sort of hybrids of different things. Quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a difference. Like deck building, I don't like deck building, but I do like it if it's a part of the game.
Yeah, kind of like Clank.
There's a reason behind it.
It gives you a reason for deck building rather than just being Dominion, which is awful.
Yeah,
it's not.
That's spoiler. It's not in my top 5.
It's not in mine anyway.
It's not in my top 1,000.
It's not in mine.
Donald spinning his grave.
Yeah, John loves top. I'm sure Dominion's coming up very shortly.
It's not.
I hope it's not.
It is. Keep in mind.
My top 5 uses mechanics well on my Dominion. Okay. Number 4. Sorry, I apologise. Number 4.
Yeah.
So, Stefan,
good choice.
Wow. Surprisingly, my number 4 is a game by my most hated game designer. Martin Wallace.
I know what it is.
Wow, yeah.
I know what it is then. It's only one Martin Wallace game you like.
It's onwards to Venus. It's the only Martin Wallace game not to feature trains in Lancashire, or games where you play it all the way through and you think you do well, and you flip it, take all the corners, and start again, play the same game twice.
In fairness,
Brass gets a lot of love online by people who don't know what good board games are.
Shots fired. You've not played all of Martin Wallace's games.
Because they're all the same.
So, you can't
To be fair, I haven't played the 50 train game by Martin Wallace. Like, does he live in a train?
I think he probably does.
In Lancashire. Onward to Venus is not about trains or Lancashire or Lancastrian trains. It is actually kind of a hybrid as well, I suppose you could call it that. It's a little bit of a area control, but only insofar as the first time you go to an area you'll get something, and then you have to continue to land on the different planets. By controlling the planet, you don't necessarily get anything unless you have stuff on that planet. Different planets will be worth each at the end of the game, but during the game they might not be valuable to go to. Also, the planets might be bad, so there's a crisis mechanism. You may, for example, Adam may control, I don't know, the Kuiper Belt, and that through a series of, basically at the end of each round, you roll a dice and see if it goes into crisis, and then everything on there might be killed, and everything in the adjacent set of planets might be killed, or moon men might attack Earth to kill everyone.
Moonmen.
Not Moonmen.
There's a lot of death.
Not necessarily, because you can only fight the opponents if there is a specific token on a planet when you arrive there. So you, Adam, all four of us may have a presence on a planet and not be able to fight each other, because there isn't a specific token for you to claim to fight another person on that planet. So it's not necessarily straight up combat, although there will be. The theme is quite nice. It's sort of a kind of steampunk. It's very much as if we'd colonised space in, say, 1916, 1917. So all the sort of components in the cards. There's also cards to it. They all kind of like
Jules Verne.
very Jules Verne, that kind of thing going on. I'd say the biggest downside to it is that it doesn't scale up well. I think it's best when you play with 3 players. I think once you've got 4 or 5 players and it does play 5, there's a lot of downtime, particularly if people are going to struggle with AP. And I think also what it does is it forces people into conflict. Whereas if you've got 3 players, you might never get conflict, but you might if you want to do that. So it kind of forces people, because obviously the resources are the same regardless of how many players there are. So it creates that scarcity of resources, so it forces conflict, and maybe you're not into that. And I think the other downside is it is definitely a game that would benefit from miniatures.
Oh, yeah.
All of your
it's
units and
very
little
sort of
card tiles,
thin
very
card
flimsy.
tiles,
Typical
aren't
Martin
they?
Wallace,
Yeah.
where like, can I make this by cutting it out of like craft card at home in the shed? Yes, I will.
Those Martin Wallace fans are coming for you. They're coming.
I prefer cubes to miniatures.
Yeah.
Go on, Matt.
Because it is Euro here.
It is Euro. It is a Euro way.
Yeah.
To be fair to Martin, he doesn't have like denominations of coins as like, this is the 1 coin, this is the 3 coin, and this is the 7 coin. Like it actually has logic to some of the money. Right? Unlike most Martin Wallace games, it's like the silver represents a 7, and that slightly off silver is 3 coins. Right? Okay, thank you, Martin. And they're both made out craft card from like Craft World.
And they're coming for you. It's a pitchforks and torches. They're just outside the door.
Just for the record,
Trains just
this is
turned
not
up.
the official opinion of SMGH. This is my opinion. Martin Wallace sucks the big one. Okay.
To be fair, I have to agree with the assessment of Martin Wallace.
I would say nothing because I don't want my house egging by trains.
It goes away. It'd be like one of little cardboard trains thrown out the window.
pieces-
Oh no, they're throwing Martin Wallace Kermel
Pieces of brass.
It'd be like getting married, because it'd just be like confetti being thrown out.
I mean, Brass Lancashire is quite a heavy game. You could get a free copy of that.
Yeah.
Just throw it at you.
Yeah.
And it's also very cheap as well.
Onward to Venus wasn't badly priced. I think
Yeah.
it was like, I think it was off Amazon. It was like
It
$12.99.
recently came down a lot in price, and it's definitely worth picking up for.
Probably
the
because
price.
Martin Wallace fans don't like it.
Maybe.
He's still got a
Maybe
trailer.
you're an atypical Wallace fan.
I've got it sat on my shelf in shrink, never played.
Oh my God.
I need to.
You need to get that
Yeah,
played.
well, if you're interested, Adam will sort you out.
Yeah.
You could sell it for $10.99.
Oh, yeah.
Make
It's very
99
expensive
pence
game.
profit.
No, it's going for £89. Okay, my number 4. Well,
No.
I know that you've all enjoyed cleaning up poop from time to time.
Yes.
I know I have.
I do it quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, anyone with kids.
I've got a
will-
16-month-old daughter.
I've got a dog and some stepchildren.
I know what this is.
What is it?
Do you?
I know what this is.
It's the only game that...
When I was a child, I had something that was kind of the digital version of this game. It was a very small
Right,
thing.
yeah. It's been, well,
A Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
this
Is
game
it a dog's life?
No, it's not. No. That's been consigned to the pits of hell.
Yeah.
No, it's Dungeon Pets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good.
I've actually
Good
played
shout,
this
good
game.
shout.
I've written here, fascinating euro from Vlada Chvatl. You're basically buying,
That's a
caring
really
for
bad
and
pronunciation.
growing a variety of fantastical pets to sell to a variety of fantasy customers. How many Euro games have you thinking about keeping a worker to clean up poo your creatures may have left?
Didn't place there's no better.
Actually have poo cubes in there. Poo cubes.
I don't think he's
brown
made.
cubes.
I don't think Vlada Chvatil has made a bad game.
Sorry, who is that?
Yeah.
Vlada Chvatl.
Vlada Chvatil.
So it's poo cubes. So
There are pubes. No.
you played it?
Pubes.
Yeah, I played
Pubes, not pubes. Pubes. So it's a worker placement at heart. You're caring for creatures like a Tamagotchi, essentially, and you're selling them to various people who are going to come into your dungeon and say, I would like this particular pet to be able to do this thing. I want it to be full of hate,
Yeah.
or I want it to be lovely and cuddly. They've got certain requirements, and the way you bring it up, depending on the needs that it has, you can then sell it for victory points to these various customers that come. Now, it's got a really interesting worker placement thing where you've got a pool of imps. It's actually a spin-off from Dungeon Lords.
So
it's a spin-off from where Dungeon Lords, you build a dungeon and then people come in and then... So the imps are in Dungeon Lords, are also in this. These are your workers. You've got a pool of them, and then you decide to portion them into... Well, don't worry about swimming. No. No. Although there might be a lot of wee everywhere. So don't drink the yellow water.
Right, okay.
So we digress.
So you portion them up into whatever number you like.
Yeah.
And they go to you've got like a cave board, and it has like sort of slots that look like holes where you exit in the cave, where you put your workers, and you decide how many you're putting in these different areas. And then the turn order is how many imps you've got in those particular. So it's like an auction mechanism
kind of an auction
for determining who's going to be placing. Okay. And then certain places on the board have got stipulations like you may have to have a coin in there as well, or if you're getting a cage for your pet, you've got to have at least 2 imps in that.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you have to make sure your pet's fed. All of the pets come on this little eggs. So one side is just like an egg unhatched, the other side is your pet there, and it's got a dial on it, and you turn that. And depending what age it is, it has different needs, different colour needs. So like green is food, red is like anger, all that kind of stuff. And you have to assign to him. And then he's just suffering. Not for each other dungeon pets though. Don't expect Yoda in there.
Yeah. That's a shame.
And then you play these little cards, which surprisingly I don't think the game's Fantasy Flight, but they have the little Fantasy Flight style tiny cards.
Okay.
It's like, that's what you pronounce that?
It's
CG,
check games. Check games. It's, did you want to clear your throat? You're alright.
No,
oh, okay, let's just check games.
For the audience. That's correct.
So you play these little cards on your creatures, so like you play some food needs on there, say, but you've got to have the appropriate food that you've got from the market, and that kind of thing. So the downside is it's complicated to teach, although logical.
Yeah.
So for instance, you've got to have to get a cage for your pet, so you go to the cage and you need 2 workers to go there because the cage is heavy, for instance. Like your vegetarian monsters will want some veg rather than meat, that kind of thing.
That's typical of his games though, because you think about, I have to say he's probably one of the few designers who, if you found 3 of his games, then none of them are the same, except for that logic
there's that logic, but on the flip side of it, there's also a long learning curve with a lot of his games.
Yes, that's true.
Where it takes a while to teach. Space Alert is probably his worst example of that.
Yes, probably.
Because
even Galaxy Trucker is
Galaxy Trucker.
There's a lot of pieces.
You sort of look through the rules for Space Alert, and it's got like a tutorial thing on there, and then you do that, but then you carry on the next sort of tutorial mission. Yeah. And then there's a load more stuff, and then there's another one, and there's a load more stuff. So before you can even play the full game, you're like, you're 3 missions in, tutorial missions in.
And then I'll say beyond the first mission.
Of Space Alert, So in this case, it's not as bad as that with Dungeon Pets, but you do need someone who's played it to teach it.
I think that's true.
It's true of a fair few games.
I would say though, you taught this to my wife, who's not a gamer, and she got it and enjoyed it. Because I think what you said is there, it's very logical. It all makes sense what you do. So it is accessible.
Okay, so that's number 3.
4.
That was number 4.